Okay, so this is our introduction. First, let us have a brief review about economics and the word scarcity. So this is the very reason why we study economics, because we do have a scarcity in terms of our resources, no? So when you say scarcity, it means that there are never enough resources to satisfy all human wants. In every society, at every level, a particular society must make choices about how to use its scarce resources. And when we say economics, this is the study of the trade-off and choices that we make given the fact that we have a scarcity of our resources. And I guess you have introduced this term opportunity cost in your previous economics. Opportunity cost is what we give up when we choose one thing over another. So that is why we do have trade-off, because of the scarcity of our resources and the value that we give up. We call it as as our opportunity cost. What we give up when we choose one thing over another. Now, in economics, we do include opportunity cost in terms of making decision, but accounting, okay, we will not include this one, opportunity cost. We will just ignore as to record keeping. But again, in economics, in making choices, okay, we consider what we call as opportunity cost. So to continue, so we have here the goods and resources. When we say economic goods, these are goods or services a consumer must pay to obtain. This is what we call also as is the scarce goods. Free goods, these are goods or services that a consumer can obtain for free because they are abundant relative to the demand. And I guess these terms, no, you have encountered this in your previous economics, the microeconomics, economic goods as well as free goods. And then we do have productive resources. These are the inputs used in the production of goods and services to make profit. Land, for example, economic capital, labor, and entrepreneurship. So that's part of the productive resources, also known as the factors of our production. Okay. Now let's take a look at the productive resources as we have mentioned a while ago. So for example, when we say land, so these are any resource including actual land, but also trees, plants, livestock, wind, sun, water, etc. So either kuan siya, free siya or an economic goods. When you process a natural resources or a natural, you call it resources in general, it will undergo into production. Mahimo na siya, no, ang free, mahimo na siyang economic goods. Okay? Then we have economic capital. This is anything that's manufactured in order to be used in the production of goods and services. And take note that sa economic capital, different ang financial as well as economic capital per se. Okay? Because financial capital, kanato ang investment, for example, okay? Basically, it is not productive, but when we say economic capital, it is part of the productive resources. Okay? But then, ang kaniyatong financial capital, it can be turned into economic capital when we use this one to purchase machines that is being used in production of goods and services. So that's economic capital. Labor. So any human service, either physical or intellectual, okay, you call it as labor, or sometimes referred to as the human capital. Then entrepreneurship, this is the ability of someone, he or she is called an entrepreneur, to recognize a profit opportunity, organize the other factors of production, and accept risk. So that's entrepreneurial ability, entrepreneurship. So these are the 4 productive resources in an economy. Now, again, as explained, the concept of opportunity cost, this is the value of the next best alternative. So again, katong value nga imong gi-give up by choosing another alternative. But then, sa macroeconomics, we're going to look at it as either individual decisions or societal decisions. Okay? When we say opportunity cost, maybe an example before tingali in the microeconomics would be, for example, sa individual decision, when you finish your baccalaureate degree, so what will be your choices? Number 1, pwede ka mag-business. Number 2, pwede sad ka mahimong employed person. So if you choose like to be an employed person, ang imong opportunity cost is, of course, ang imong ma-profit kung nag-business ka, no? That's individual. Okay? But then, as to societal decisions, this one, mo ni ang atong i-focus sa atong macroeconomics. Opportunity cost comes into play with societal decisions like this one. Universal health care would be nice, but the opportunity cost of such a decision would be less housing, for example, or less of environmental protection, or less budget for national defense. So these are the trade-offs that arise in terms of a government policy. Like if you look into the government policy of the Duterte administration, diba, ang ihag yung aside katong sa drugs, no? It's more on build program. Okay? Kuan gid siya. More on ang atoang mga structures or kanaganing para there is mobility, no, in the economy. So mo na ang more or less gibank sa Duterte administration. So that's societal decisions. Okay? And as to labor, market and trades, the division and specialization of our labor, you have here. As to division of labor, the way in which the work required to produce a good or service is divided into tasks performed by different workers. And if in terms of specialization, like when workers or firms focus on a particular task for which they are well suited within the overall production process. In terms of labor, the market as well as the trade, so this is one of the factors of production. It could either be a division of labor or a specialization. Okay. Okay, let's proceed. As to trade and market, you have it here. Specialization only makes sense if workers can use their income to purchase the other goods and services. And specialization requires trade. And the market allows you to learn a specialized set of skills and then use the pay you receive to buy the goods and services you need or want. Now, we can emphasize more of this later on when we discuss about the circular flow of our economy. Okay, labor is one of the aspects there that we will see in the circular flow of our economy. Okay, in general, there is atua sa Philippines, since wala man tay mga technology, okay, more on labor intensive man ta dere sa Philippines. So that's one big factor, no, in our production. karon bag-uhay lang gi saka ng atong minimum wage, maka-affect ba na sa economy in general? Of course, yes. Okay? Then, let us consider to differentiate microeconomics and macroeconomics. So, when we say macroeconomics, which is the focus of our subject this time, this is the branch of economics that focuses on broad issues such as the growth, the unemployment, inflation, as well as the trade balance. And when we say microeconomics, which you have taken already, this is the branch of economics that focuses on actions of a particular agent within the economy, like household, like workers and businesses. That is why, if you can recall, the focus on the microeconomics is supply, demand, and So, and then what if there will be changes in the price? That's one factor. What will happen to the demand of a particular goods or services? The supply of a particular goods and services. That's micro. But when we say macroeconomics, this is on a national scale. Medyo mas broad ang ihang issues such as the economic growth. So our GDP, GNP, that's gross domestic product, gross national product, the unemployment rate of an economy, and then the percentage of inflation, okay? And then, of course, international trade balance. That's the issues or the things to be discussed in a macroeconomics level. Okay? Now, let us try to understand microeconomics. This is somewhat like a review, of the things that you have learned in the previous economic subject. So questions to ask with the microeconomics, like what determines how household and individuals spend their budget, and what combination of goods and services will best fit their needs and wants given the budget that they have to spend, and how do people decide whether to work, and if so, whether to work full-time or part-time. And this one, how do people decide how much to save for the future, or whether they should borrow to spend beyond their current means? As you can see, it's more on a specific sector or a more specific factors of production. That's the focal or the concern of a microeconomics. But this is the continuation. But when we say macroeconomics, basically on a broad sense, we'll be talking about the monetary policy in general. So monetary policy, this is something to do with the BSP. That's monetary policy. Okay, it involves altering the level of the interest rates, the availability of credit in the economy, and the extent of borrowing. This is the concern of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, the monetary policy. Kanigad, ihang factors, mga interest rate, the credit rating of the economy, availability of credit. Now, the second one is fiscal policy. This is more on the Department of Finance. Okay, fiscal policy, these are economic policies that involve government spending. Okay, so muna siya ang concern sa fiscal policy. Economic policy that involve the government spending. Like again, at the start of the Duterte administration, it's more on the Build program niya. Because of the pandemic, medyo nahasen sila ni kuan siya, ni hinay or ang spending adto or na divert into vaccination na ta, okay? Karon mga booster na pod. But then ang katong mga project na continue gihapon pero medyo naalay delays. Wala gid siya na fulfill or na follow gid ang timeline because of the pandemic. Ang ato sang resources pagka pandemic kuan pod medyo na divert sad siya into katong mga gipanghatag nga acceleration, I mean katong SAP gani, you call that one. And then of course ang ato ang vaccination, nangadto no na ang ato ang focus kasagaran sa atong mga debt, mga utang na to, okay, coming from other countries, murag ngadto gihapak sa government ang spending katong sa recovery sa atong pandemic na time. And then basically we will be using economic models. When we say economic model, this is a simplified version of reality that allows us to observe, understand, and make predictions about the economic behavior, like katong atong mga supply demand graph, okay, or law of demand, law of supply. Those are economic model. And of course we use a graph, or it involves mathematics, no, graph and formulas to explain an economic models. Mo na ni ang yan discussion. Okay, for example here, this is one example of an economic model, the circular flow of our economy. Okay, wherein it involves household and the firm. Household is the consuming portion of the economy, or the consumer, the consuming unit, no, of the economy, or the household niya. The producing unit, we call it the firm. And these are the factors of or the resources involved in the circular flow diagram. Like coming from the household, from here, okay, we give off labor services, and then payment, no, for goods and services to firms. Yeah. In turn, ang firms mo produce og goods and services, and ang firms sad ang mobayad sa wages, salary, as well as different benefit. Okay? Now, on a micro scale, mo ni ang imuhang circular flow model, but on a macro scale, nanani siya government, no, intervention. Okay? This will lead us to our PDF file. So, kamo nalay take a look at the more on the mathematical side, ang mga equation, ang katong what do we mean by negative slope, positive slope, yeah, slope of zero. I know nga you have learned this in your microeconomics, so no need for me to emphasize on this one. So this time, let's go back to, or let's go over with our PDF file. Okay, so again, when we say macroeconomics, it means large, indicating that macroeconomics is concerned with the study of the market system on a large scale. Like in the macroeconomics, we will focus on the large subsectors of the economy, which includes the household sector, the consumer in general, the business sector, which includes the businesses firm or all firms, and the government sector, which includes all government agencies. So that's the focus, no, of macroeconomics. Now, as to development, for a while, development in terms of when this particular branch in economics started, this was born out of the dark days of the Great Depression during the 1930s. Okay, so basically, this is one economist, John Maynard Keynes, performed a theoretical rethink and argued that employment is not determined by prices and wages, but by the level of aggregate demands for goods and services. So again, it's more on the demands of goods and services. It dictates as to the employment of the people within an economy, depending on the demand of goods and services. Now, the central concern of macroeconomics, you have it here, the aggregate output, okay, the business cycle, the quantity of goods and services being produced in the economy, particularly when the economy does not seems to be producing as much as it is capable of producing. So we will be talking about our GDP, the gross domestic product, and the gross national product, no, as to the aggregate output. And then the second one, macroeconomics is concerned with the aggregate price level. So increases in the overall price level, like inflations, no, are of great concern to policymakers and to citizens at large. So basically, we do have a separate chapter for inflation. We will understand the effect of an inflation. So again, that's part of macroeconomics. The third one, it is also concerned with the employment rate, the total employment and its level. So an economy may not be employing all the people who want jobs. So we'll look into the employment rate of a particular economy, the unemployment rate, no? So that's part of macroeconomics. And lastly, we have it here. It is concerned with the market abroad and its relationship to the domestic market. So we're talking about the international trade. So these are the four central concerns of macroeconomics. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we do have these are the instrument, no, in macroeconomics, like our monetary policy. So this refers to the tools used by the BSP in controlling the supply of money that circulates within the economy. So you talk about, again, monetary policy, the interest rate, and the availability of credit. Fiscal policy, so refers to government policies regarding taxes and expenditure. So again, this is more on the dictate of the Department of Finance. Ang kaning fiscal policy, it's more on the government actions. So in general, it's all about taxes as well as the spending. And the income policy, so this one refers to the attempt initiated by government to control the prices, the wages. Okay, again, yung mention, example is the minimum wage law. Now, if mo increase na siya, it will have a massive effect, no, on the prices in general. And of course, the international policy. So this refers to the policies of a certain economy that affects other economies in the field of the international trade and exchange rate setting. So this one, ang kaning mga international policy na to, it involves kaning ato ang tarification. That's the best example, one of the best example. Rice tarification law. I think this was introduced in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, wherein before, we're not allowed to export, no, rice. Yung munang medyo mahal kaya nga itong rice sa Philippines. Yeah, taas on demand. But because of rice tarification, medyo niubos ang price sa atong rice. At the same time, naka-generate sad siya og billions in taxes. So ato lang maka-export ta og rice niya, ato lang siyang impose og taxes. Mo na siyang idea sa rice tarification. But then, murag, let's see the scattered tani kung matinuod baka nga maabot na lang 20 pesos, no, ang price sa atong rice. Mo nagi promise ni Marcos. Tanaw lang nato, no, ang effect. Now, we have it here, the goals of macroeconomics. As to overall price, dapat stable price. And then, as to output, high level. As to employment, high level. And then, there should be a equilibrium as to our exportation and importation. Okay? Then, sa free market, overall price for the free market, then you have here, as to total output, it should be rapid growth. And as to employment, again, high level siya, at the same time, low unemployment. Sa international trade pod, there should be a stable exchange rate. Ya karon ba ano medyo taas kay ang dollar, naabot nag 53. Okay, ang na average na around ta na sa 49.50, 49.50 karon 53 na. So nabay effects ang kaning changes sa atong exchange rate dako kay effect na manang mahal pud kay ang atong oil prices karon. Okay? And the important sectors of the macroeconomy, you have the private sector, the household and the firms, and then the public sector, you have the government in general, and then the international sector, the rest of the world. Okay? Affected ba ta? Yes. Again, kanit kong dimension, katong paggubat na sa Ukraine ug sa kuano sa Russia. So ang atong oil prices from 60 plus karon 99.75 na ang per liter. Wala lang ginilagi himog 100 no. And take note kuan ba na siya, part ba na siya sa atong mga input sa atong production kanang oil. We use that in the equipment or in the machinery or in the delivery of goods and services manang dako gid siya impact sa atong economy. And you have it here. Why should we care about macroeconomics? Would it affect us? The answer is a big yes. In terms of self-interest, macroeconomics aggregates affect our daily life. Like what happened to, again, the price of oil. Kay wala man ta nag-produce ana, ato man ang gi-export. Musaka gani, saka samplitihan. Magkanam kasakan. All other mga goods will increase the prices. It affects our daily life. Cultural literacy sa international trade, understanding our world, common welfare. So this is essential for policymakers to do good policy, like train law for one, there's something to do with regards our fiscal policy. Ang train law ba naka-benefit ba ta? More on the benefit ba or beneficial ba siya sa economy or negative ang yung effect? Kana siya, that's number one, kuan gina siya. Tanawon sa fiscal, any policy na i-implement sa government. Take note, because of that, train law, 99% sa atong mga employed person or workers tax exempt na. Ang 1% na lang ang medyo saka ang ilang mga taxes. Kay if you look into the train law, kung mag-income ka og 250,000 in a year, wala kay bayaran nga tax. And most of our labor sector, 99% no, naa siya ang income. Kay kung imo na siyang i-chop into monthly income, roughly 20,000 kapin niya. Ang ato biyang minimum wage napabeta sa 14,000. So daghan gid ang naka-benefit. Ang iya pong downside pod in terms of atong sa atong mga excise taxes pod, medyo nagmahal ang atong mga juices, kaning mga goods na to nga naay mga sugar. Pero again, ang gitan-aw pod na sa government, ang kuan man pod na ang health benefits sa public nga dili kita mo consume og mga sugary product, mga soft drinks, kana atong mga juices, kanang atong mga coffee nga 3-in-1 ano no. So again, this is one of the item nga i-look into whenever you will have a policy. Dapat common welfare ang tan-awon. And you have civic responsibility. It is essential for us to understand our politicians as to where they are coming from. Like tingali mo nang daghan kay ang ni butar ni Bongbong Marcos compare kang Lenny, kay ang iyang promise is katugyod ang rice kuno kay tag 20 na lang per kilo. And then most of us Filipinos, we do consume rice 3 times a day. Mo nang naigo gid siya sa masa no. Okay, nga again ang agricultural sector tanawon pug kuno. Nya kani atong electricity kay taas na ang rate sa atong electricity basig maka-help ang government. Okay, ana no, mo nang nakadaog ito pangmasa kay ito ang iyang mga policy. So that's civic responsibility. Now to continue, you have it here, the role of the government. Okay, just look into this one. So again, ang government na siya monetary policy as well as fiscal policy. Okay? And also, kaning ang government na po na what you call as injections to the economy. Like during pandemic, down kayo ang atong economy, walay trabaho ang mga tao. And then ang sa business firm, they cannot produce goods. What the government did para naalay murag stimulus sa economy, di ba naghatag siya og katong gitawag na tug SAP. I forgot the exact term for SAP. Pero pila gud to ka billions gud ang gihatag sa household coming from the government. Yeah, of course, what the household will do will spend those money. So magtuyok gihapon na siya within our economy. Okay, you just look into this one. These are the plan of the government by 2050 in terms of GDP. Okay, so just look into this one. And the highlights of the Aquino administration. For now, wala pa ni namo na more or less na-include ang kang Duterte administration, ang latest kay wala pa manahuman no ang ihang term. So that is why kang kuan pa ni President o former kanhing anhing naman po din no si Noynoy Aquino. So these are the highlights of the past administration. Now, if you're going to ask me, Miss, what can you say about the growth of the economy during Noynoy and kang Duterte? Now, nindot noon to ang start good ang buwelo sa administration ni Duterte, pero pandemic magud happens and dili lang siya sa Philippines. It affects the rest of the world. Munang I don't know kung comparable baka ang ilahang in terms of effects sa atong economy kaning nga mga items ang atong competitive rankings. What I know, ang atong credit ratings even though pandemic nanata sa triple B positive. So this one. Ato ning na-maintain ang atong credit ratings internationally. And ang atong GDP growth, okay, naa sa in between 6%. Ang kang Noynoy na naabot siya no pag 2010 to 7%. I think naabot sad ang GDP growth during the Duterte administration. Abot sad siya og 8%, most especially katong yung full implementation sa train law. Okay? But again, we cannot compare it yet. Wala pa man nahuman yun. Karon, I think June 30 no mahuman na ang iyang administration. Maybe amo ni siyang i-change later on. Okay? And of course, still in macroeconomics point of view, di gyapon ni mawagtang ang production possibilities frontier as well as the circular flow model, this one. Okay, so ato lang i-review when we say production possibility frontier for a while. It represents the point at which an economy is most efficiently producing its goods and services and therefore allocating its resources in the best way possible. Okay? So still dapat ma-attain gihapon to ni ma-maximize na to ato ang PPF no. So what should we produce and how should we produce those goods and services? So that's part of PPF. And for the circular flow of our economy, this one, okay, you take a look at the circular flow model. It represents the linkages among the different sectors of the economy. Again, the household firms, the government, and the rest of the world. So the three major market here, you have the goods, services, labor, and money, and the four sectors that interact with each other. Ang government, ani, nasa to nga. You have here the household and then the firm. Government is in the middle. Okay? In the circular flow of the economy. So, mubalance. Si government ang mubalance sa interaction between household and the firm. Okay? So, I guess that's about it as to our introduction to macroeconomics. Now, do you have any question or clarification?